Hi everybody, it's Jenny. So this is take two because I was in the house and an ice cream van roared past with its music blaring. So I decided to come into my little studio. This is where the magic happens. I have a little craft business and floristry business where I make all my own and forage my own things. I'll turn the camera around just now and I'll just show you what I do. And you know what, that sort of actually brings me back to one of the reasons why I'm doing this, really. I'm sort of, just going back on things and just putting things, a few things straight, really, because I think I've given a little indication of where I'm going with this. So many of you know we appeared on the Grand Designs program for the building of our home in Spain, in the Alicante region. And that was back in 2004. And I have been away now from Spain for about, I came back just before Brexit. And it's insane when you actually look back and realize the impact of just going on that one program, how it culminated into a series of events that is just beyond your control, because you do not realize what you're doing at the time. You don't realize how it's affected you. And yes, it's been a long time, but it's taken this amount of time to actually get off that hamster wheel. And believe me, living in Spain is like a hamster wheel. You are just surviving. Well, we were in that. I mean, it's completely different to the people who go there and retire. And I'm not knocking them. That's absolutely fantastic. That is just the best thing to do. You've had your life, go to Spain and live the life. Live the dream. Because as you can see from, I'm just going to bring up the book here, because we were featured alongside the program. We're also featured in the book Grand Designs Abroad. And it did say building the dream. And honestly, that's what we thought we were doing. We were building the dream. But I can honestly say that it was a nightmare. Yes, from the building and the things, and that I can see why people think it would be an enjoyable process. And yes, it was, of elements of it. But bringing the TV into that whole scenario did not make it that enjoyable. There were elements of it that was enjoyable, but I'll go back over it and the reasons why. And of course, Kevin McCloud comes up and we'll go over that as well. And you'll see how just that little thing has set in it's almost like a little avalanche, isn't it? It starts with it just starts with a little bit of a rumble, a little bit of shake, and then it's just a momentum that gathers its own sort of velocity, and you are pretty much left at the bottom of the mountain after all the snow's on top of you, just digging your way out and going, what the hell just happened? What was that all about? And it's so easy to just think, okay, well, you know what? It was just a TV program. Yes, it was. But do you know that the Channel 4 program, the Grand Design series in itself, is one of Channel 4's most successful programs? It's their flagship show. It was, and there's never been since, the one and only series that they did abroad. Okay? And it's funny because I hardly slept last night. I'll be honest with you. I woke up. I think I only went to bed at 2. I was up at 5 with those horrific stomach cramps. And it just shows you just how things can impact you emotionally. And so this is going to be an emotional journey for me. And I think it's going to be, as I probably even alluded to before, quite cathartic. Because I really do think that sometimes things need to be addressed. And yes, fair enough, now we're 2022 and this happened 2004. And you can judge it on that basis, and it's going to be unfair from a 2022 perspective, because in 2004, there was only BBC One, BBC Two, Channel 4, ITV. I think Channel 5 had sort of just come out. There was no more 4+4, all that sort of thing. All this online and everything was in its infancy. So you can look now and say, oh, well, you should have expected what it was being on a program. You should have expected this. You should expect. No, I shouldn't have expected it. How did I know that that was going to be the reaction? How do you know in any particular circumstance how you're going to react? How do you know the impact it's going? You go in there like anything, because we're humans, you know, we want to try things, we want to do things. You don't think about how that's going to affect you down the line. You don't think 20 years later you still going to be dealing with the aftermath of these things. That program actually set up us so much that became attention of the Spanish authorities, and an absolute focus that they were going to do everything they could. You in the big red house, just because you come in here and you build this house and you think you can do this, you think it completely changed the authorities' attitude to us. And that, believe me, was 19 years of the authorities after us. So yes, we can say, okay, well, you just went on the program, and so what? A few people said a few horrible things about you. Well, you know, tough. No, it affected me. It affected our relationship. It affected our children. Can you imagine? So this was even after the program. Like I said, we didn't realize that, when it first viewed or aired, should I say, I honestly thought that it would only be seen once. And I was so relieved afterwards. I'll go back a little bit now and we'll talk about things with Kevin McCloud and the whole reason why it was such I didn't find it a good process to go through, and I will reflect on reasons why. But it was just, I've lost my train of thought now. This is really hard. This is really hard. Yeah, I just need a moment. I'll come back to it now. Right, I'm back. I know in video land, we're just going to immediately link this video with the next, but I've had a break, about an hour or so. Yeah, it's one of these things that you don't realize while you're talking about it. All these memories come rushing back, and especially if they're not the greatest, it does tend to become overwhelming. So there might be a few of that, but we'll go on to safer ground. A lot of people have asked, Grand Designs, wow, how did you get on the show? Were you approached? Well, to be honest, remember, this is my story. And I actually was in hospital having a baby, when obviously I left Derek with too much time on his hands, and he had watched a program, obviously, of some other very, very brave soul who had just had their program broadcast, and when the credits rolled up, it says, if you are planning your own grand designs, get in contact with us. And that he did. He apparently left a message on the in those days you could leave a message on the phone in the companies. You weren't diverted to, you know what I'm trying to say. But anyway, he left this really, really passionate about how we're going to build this house in Spain. And apparently he talked so long, pretty much the video ran out of, or the tape ran out of time. Probably, which you can see where we get all our talking from me as well. I didn't tend to ramble on, but be that as it may. So when I came out of hospital, he said, oh, guess what? We've got some people from Channel 4, the production company, and they're going to come and interview us. And I went, okay, well, why? She says, well, I told them about our project in Spain, and yeah, they just said that I was so excited about my project that they wanted to find out more, and they were going to do sort of like a test thing. Honestly, when they come, I was breastfeeding, okay? That's how much I took this seriously. Really? Yeah, and obviously they kept the camera up reasonably high, and they just were asking questions. I honestly didn't say much at all. Literally come out of hospital, okay, not looking my best, newborn baby, clutched to the boob, And yeah, you can imagine the scene. So they just said, thank you very much. A few days later, they said, we're not interested. So thank you, but no thank you. And we just went on our merry way. I remember we had already started the build, the foundations were in, and you probably see from the original footage, it doesn't show you much of that. So we were actually out in Spain, and then again, going back to 2004, the reception wasn't that great in mobile phones. Also, you had the mobile phones that pretty much like the Nokias. Do you remember the Nokias? There was none of this. It was all, press button, and sometimes to do a text, you had to press everything 3 or 4 times to get on. But anyway, be that as it may. And we were actually by the lake at this time, and we had to drive up to the top of lakeside mansions there, just pretty much to get a signal. So we're driving around the lake, and we got a phone call, and we just heard, whatever. And I said, that's really weird. So I said to Derek, carry on driving, drive down to the top. And basically I could picture together, or piece together, should I say, we're coming out with a camera crew. We've booked our flights. Honestly, nobody believes that's what happened, but that's what happened. And I think I turned to Derek and I said, they're coming. And then it was funny. It was quite exciting, wasn't it? I mean, can you imagine? It's going to have this fantastic documentation of our build. Of course, we'd just been out of Spain. It was a new thing and things like that. I thought that'd be absolutely fabulous. We'll be able to show, people that from nothing, you can actually create something. And when I say from nothing, I don't mean creating a house from nothing. Okay. This I will go in another time because it's another story in itself. But when we originally arrived in the UK, 10 years previously, we arrived with, I think, £500, a child, no jobs. We'd lost everything in South Africa. So I think we really needed something to show, maybe in a physical sense, that all the sacrifice that we had gone through in the UK was culminating into something physical that we could see for all our years of hard work. So essentially we got onto Grand Designs by default. And when they first came, all the crew arrived. Kevin was there and it was a bit of fun. Of course, it was really good to see the movement, and we got to talk about the build and everything. So that just was really fun, obviously. And thereafter, Kevin didn't come back every time. It was mostly Tom and Christian, the director. And you actually get to know these people really well. So Tom would come over every week, every other week. He was actually in direct contact with the builder, so he knew when the big things were going to come out. So actually, you don't really see Kevin that much. If you think that this filming took over a year, that's over a year of our lives, and Kevin comes out probably, at the important parts of the build and then says his little thing. But you've got Tom and the different camera women and cameramen, people with the mics. You've got a team that you get to know really well. And so they would interview you. So a lot of the footage that you actually saw, Kevin wasn't even there for. You see the director quite often because obviously he comes and he needs to see certain stages. So yes, I would say Kevin is the front man, but the people that you really deal with are the people who see you all the time. And effectively, they're the ones asking you the questions. Although you don't see that, you think it's Kevin's asking the questions or whatever. No, but it's the whole production team. So Tom and I got quite close, because not close in a weird or funny way, but just the time spent over a year. Because I was on my own for the first I can't even remember, is it 46 months before Derek could come over? And I was on my own with the kids in a completely strange country, living in an absolute awful place in a mobile home with 3 kids on my own. So I'm going to be honest with you here. It was a bit of company. There was a bit of movement. As you can see on the movie, I'm running backwards and forwards. I used to have to drive from Creviente to drop Eden, rush to get Jenna to Alicante to the school. Then in the afternoon, I would have to go back, get Jenna, and be back in time to fetch Eden from school in the afternoon. And obviously, Lindsay was a baby. So it was, anybody with children knows, even if it's just down the road, let alone 45 minutes on the motorway to go and fetch your children from school to and fro every day, that's going to be cause enough stress on its own. And obviously driving on the other side of the road doesn't help as well. And a left-hand sided car. But yeah, oh, glory. What you do, eh? So there was a bit of, change from the scenery, a little bit of company, something to focus your mind on. So that was really good. So what I'm trying to say is you got a really good rapport and a good interaction with Tom, who was the main person, who was probably assigned to us. And then, of course, you had Christian, and then you had Kevin. So Kevin was really nice. I've got a little photo I'm going to put up here. Loved the kids, great with children. So that was never an issue. He was always just genuinely nice around the kids and stuff like that. Lindsay was small. Lindsay screamed. Oh my word. When you have to go on the set and essentially they want to interview you and you've got a baby that won't be quiet. The amount of times Tom had to hold the baby while he's trying to interview and literally feeding Lindsay chocolate so she doesn't cry and mess the whole thing up. And that's what we got so much flack for, because it's like, you're taking your baby on side, she hasn't got a hard hat on. You try and put a hard hat on a screaming month when these guys are just flown over and trying to get some footage for the next thing. Just wasn't happening. And we never put her in danger anyway. She's a tough little thing. We always made sure that there was big open spaces around her and stuff like that. So she was never in any danger. But yeah, I was on my own with a film crew. We're trying to get footage. We're trying to make it, and we just had a screaming baby most of the time. So that in itself was interesting. So Kevin, in the beginning, he really, he was quite upbeat. He was quite, looking forward to come around and stuff, because he liked the way, most probably from he liked more what Derek was doing, to be honest with you. He liked the floating roof, the angles, and you can see when he comes around, he goes, yeah, liking this, all this dynamic shapes. And his perception and his response changed one time. He came, and I think he saw that I'd put the stone balconies on, and his face just went, and he basically said to me, you've ruined it. What I did, he didn't like the way I did things. He said that you have to go with the architect, and obviously I understand that, but this was our design. We gave our design to the architect to draw. Effectively, we got the English architect, and he gave it to the Spanish architect, because we tried with the Spanish architect, and ultimately all he did was like a square with two circles, looked like Mickey Mouse, honestly. And so that's where I came up. It was my design, actually, the hexagon design. And yes, this is a house in two parts. The roof was Derek. So yes, we're trying to amalgamate two ideas. But effectively, I think now when you look at the videos, and you can look at it on my page, and I will actually load it up, you can actually see how it does work. It's quite dynamic. And it isn't alternatively, or it is actually, our design after all. I'll put the video up, or you can go to my Grand Design Facebook page and you can see it there. And you can see it is quite a dynamic shape now that all the greenery and stuff has grown around it. I think it sits well into the landscape. However, it's still something unique. It's still something different. But that's when I noticed a really big shift in the whole way. He didn't seem so keen to come out. And then the interviews got quite combative. It was starting to get a little bit exhausting, constantly having to sort of justify things, and it just really took a turn, if that makes any sense. And the reveal it was just each time he came out, it was just getting more and more negative. The whole sort of his attitude was like he didn't want to be there. Sort of, and the interviews were getting tougher and tougher. So much so that the day before the big final filming, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. Genuinely, I'm done. Goodness me, did that put them into a panic. They took me out to dinner and everything, but it got to a point where it's like, I don't have to be doing this. I don't have to be justifying myself for every little decision that I make. I really shouldn't have to be put in this position where I feel like I'm being interrogated rather than just trying to, just show a journey of the whole, story. Anyway, on the final day, the next day we started filming and stuff like that, and Kevin was brutal. Absolutely brutal. The footage that you see there is not all it. Remember that a year of filming is divided and spliced and edited into 45 minutes, okay? That reveal was really just a culmination of a year's work. And he was so dismissive. He was condescending. So much so that when I'd finished the last interview, Tom just gave me the biggest hug and just said, well done. You can see when we're on the balcony, I actually wanted to rugby tackle him and flip it over this time because, so ultimately, the worst one, he said, he went, so, and he knocked his nose twice. He went, do you think this is going to work, do you? Like with a little nod of a head going over there. And I said, yeah, I do, actually. I said, yeah, maybe not now, but when it's finished, yes, I do. I do think it will come together. And he goes, well, Jenny, after filming 53 or how many of the programs he'd done, I'm going to tell you it's not going to work. I just looked at him and I thought, okay, what do you take from that when you being filmed? Okay. It really seemed quite personal. It really seemed quite direct. And you obviously thought that it's going to fail. It's not worthy of you to come around and, And that's what I felt. And that's what came over on the program and the edits. Actually, they contacted us and they actually wanted to reshoot the whole final reveal. It's called the reveal. The producer there wanted to reshoot the whole one. Now, why did they want to do that? Obviously, what you're seeing on film in the final reveal isn't all what was said. His last words to me was, thank you for being so feisty. And he said to me what he wanted to do was he wanted 50% to go with him and 50% to go with me. Let's be honest, okay? I'll probably use honestly quite a lot in this podcast or this video. How many people would actually go with me? Kevin is a superstar. He's, really, they treat him like God there because he is one of the most successful program interviewers. How many people are genuinely going to take my side in comparison to him? I'm going to tell you from the fallout and the reviews immediately afterwards, nil point. No one. When I say no one, I mean no one. There is a Grand Design magazine that comes out, and in the editor's forward afterwards, is basically got trashed. The editor there just laid into us there. We were the only, I don't know if I've said it now, we're the only Grand Design house that never got featured in it. And he said in his forward, that's in the front of the magazine, mind you. Number one, we're not worthy to be in the magazine. Number two, This is everything a grand design is not. I wish I could find that one. I think I probably just threw the magazine away. So can you see from that, why would I be proud of this house? Why? I was so humiliated. I was embarrassed. When it showed, the aftermath was crazy. I think what I'll do is I'll leave it on that note, and we'll pick up from that point. Yeah, there's still loads to talk about and loads to think, but you can, I think I haven't really tried to do anything. I've just sort of shifting in my mind, like trying to just understand myself really, and the reasons why I was so upset, why how it set things in motion. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there now. Very quickly, what I'll do is I'll answer the question, is that why did it become known as the Grand Design House? Well, we always called it Casa La Pedrera. I never called it the Grand Design House. But obviously, because of its notoriety and infamy, I'm not even going to call it fame, okay? Because I was always like dodging everybody. I didn't want to tell anybody. Everybody was coming to me and telling me they'd seen me. And I was like so embarrassed. People said, you should sell the DVD. I said, not on your life. I don't want to see the program again. Yes. And obviously you can't dodge the attention, can you, whether it's negative or positive? And obviously after a while you do get some positives, let's be honest. I'm just going to say the aftermath was incredibly negative. There was no positive until a little bit later, and then you start getting a little bit more of a balance, don't you? But yeah, so it's called Casa La Pedrera. So Pedrera means stone quarry. In Catalan, it is the name of Gaudi's famous beautiful building in Barcelona. And so it's obviously Casa, everybody can say Casa, but it's La Pedrera, Pedrera. So yeah, people would go, hello, is that Casa La Pedrera or Pedrera or everything? And they couldn't say it. So locally, people began saying, oh, have you seen the Grand Design House? Have you been on, and all things like that. And on the radio program as well, I was asked to come and have a little chat about our experience. Didn't obviously say anything in this length and this detail. Just try to keep it very light and happy, because no way did I want to go and reinforce that negative stereotype and the negative energy that was I was trying to, just play along the game, And yeah, when I realized that nobody else, in fact, my best friend Karen, she said to me, Jenny, just go with the flow, girl. You need to use this. And yeah, again, we will go through that a little bit later, how we had to navigate opening the business, and so much still to follow. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I don't know actually what to call it. Story journey. I know it's long-winded, and yeah, it is going to be that way because I'm not planning what I'm saying. It's just flowing. I'll probably be going a bit of backwards and forwards. Next week I will have more footage of it. This was just the preliminary chat to set everything up. And yeah, subscribe, share, just come along for the ride. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, everybody.